Hello, all. Welcome back to Melanin Madam. Tonight, our topic, or not welcome back. Y'all been here before. No red carpet tonight. I'm just saying. The topic is going to be tonight about marriage. I know y'all been waiting for this, but don't be too nosy. It's not about my marriage. It's about marriage in whole. And so what I did was I reached out to somebody who's been instrumental in my marriage. And so I want to share her with everyone because I think we could all use some good, transparent advice about marriage. These reality shows have everybody going crazy. This social media has everybody going crazy, and that's not reality. And unfortunately, every married couple doesn't talk. And just because you're like raised in a two-parent household doesn't necessarily mean that you get the tools that you need. So I am going to bring on a guest to talk about marriage specifically, and her name is Kasana. So Kasana, welcome.
Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. So one of the things that I do before I start the show is, even if I've taken a shower and gotten dressed for the day, I like to renew before I go on the show. So I take a whole new shower, do all of my whole routine, hence me always being late. So I have given kind of a prelude to who you are, but I wanted to give more of an introduction when you were actually on, give people their flowers so they can hear them. So again, Christina is somebody who is very instrumental in my marriage, but from a perspective of talking woman to woman. And every woman in a marriage needs that, as well as a man needs that for himself. She is a dress designer. The way that we met was completely out of, I was going to say divine purpose. That's actually the name of my nonprofit, but it was. It really was. So I saw something that she made like a year before, and it was exactly what I like. It was the pants with the skirt piece behind it, which isn't or wasn't very common at that time, specifically for plus size women. Yeah. So what I like if she had clothes that were for plus size women of all different shapes, and they fit like a woman should. So if you're from the South, you know that you're supposed to wear your proper undergarments. Things should look nice when you wear it. All of her stuff does. So she does designing for red carpet, all of these things. And I reached out to her like, let me test my stepping out skills and see if this will work. Well, voila, it did. So she gives back in the community, a great mom, and that's my opinion, a great mom, a great wife, a great big sister, somebody that you just connect with if you do, and it just works. So I guess I will share her. Aww. I guess I will share her. So you're welcome. So do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Just to kind of continue on, I'm Kasana Gibson. I have been married now for 23 years. It's funny because that's how we say it. So we'll be 24 in November. I am a mom of two. My daughter is on her way. Well, she's local, but she's going to college. So she starts on the 29th. Lord. So I got one down and one more to go. And my son, he's 13. So he's in the 8th grade. And, it's been a great ride. It's been a great ride. I'm grateful for what, God has done in our marriage. It's been an amazing journey. Just when we talk about it a lot, my husband and I now, we talk about it a lot, about what our journey has been. But yeah, so that's who I am. I'm a daughter. I love my mom. I'm the baby in the family, and I'm a sister. And so, yeah, that's who I am.
all of those hats. And so this is going to, I like to just mention, one of the things that I talk about with minority women is that no matter how far we are up the career ladder, if you ask us who we are, we're always going to say everything we are to other people.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
didn't mention anything about your red carpet, being a designer. But you didn't mention anything about that. You
Right.
mentioned who you were. But what I will say is I still firmly believe that those core values that we were taught coming up, no matter if they say, people say the Bible is used to manipulate you. I believe it's used to mold you into what you should be in your home if it's used the right way. And we should be humble in those things to other people. We were put here for the gifts that we have to give them to other people. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I want to fine tune it a little bit, but I think that speaks to who you are as a person. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the thing is, when it comes to, to those things, the giftings that I've been given when it comes to design and being in that field, it's what I have. So I've been sewing literally since I was 6. I will be 52 next month. So, so I've been doing it a long time, and have always been creative. I found out later, I mean, the whole creative thing, it was in my family. My paternal grandmother, I called her the triple threat because she could sew, she could cook, and she could do your hair. So she was, so I got it honest. It's what my mom did. I have a picture of my mother when she's pregnant with me, and she actually made the dresses that she has on and my 2 sisters have on. So, it's something I'm grateful for the gift, and I'm grateful that I'm able to use it, and that, God has helped me to be able to see how he wants me to use it. Because for a time it was just, okay, my dream, okay, what I want to do with it and then I had to stop and say, okay, so God, what do you want? What do you want me to do with this? Because I've been, I've done a lot, but, so finally finding that and figuring that out was, has been huge. So being able to give back to I call them my prom babies, my prom girls, being able to give to them has been huge, and to see them get their dream dress, the thing, they've been thinking about since they were probably in the grade, oh, I can't wait, my prom dress is gonna be, I remember doing the same thing. So yeah.
Right. I think that purpose is a really big part of our lives. And so thinking about things back when we were in junior high, from the time we played with baby dolls, most girls in some capacity thought about being married, which is different than being a wife. They thought about their wedding day, not their marriage. Right? Oh, yeah. Very, very different. I just want to say that. With that and your purpose as in being a wife, what valuable lesson, what was one that you could say was an aha moment in being a married woman, a matured into marriage woman, which is different than what you thought was going to happen versus what really happens and how you maneuver through those type of things?
One of the things that I think about, because it is true, we for most of us, if you live in the West, if you're in the United States especially, we saw Cinderella, we read Cinderella, and they lived happily ever after, right? So that, and it's like, oh, I can't wait till my Prince Charming comes with me.
I can't wait till he saves me.
Right, exactly. And so that was probably one of the things that was really eye-opening, was understanding that me getting married was not going to fix everything that was wrong with me. It was not going to repair areas that were broken before I met my husband. So understanding that and really just getting honest with myself about, you know what, you got some stuff you need to deal with, little girl. It was just like, yeah, you're a brat, you are spoiled, you are angry.
You were angry.
I was angry, entitled. Just as my husband would say, I had a multiplicity, a cornucopia of issues that I needed to deal with. But yeah, so one of the main things was understanding that getting married, saying I do, that wasn't going to fix, and it didn't fix everything and I won't even say that was wrong with me. I'll just say the
That
thing,
needed attention.
yeah, that I needed to really give attention to, and that I needed to surrender to God and say, okay, I'm going to allow you, God, to do the things that I have been running away from. I got married at 28. So the things that I have been running away from for 27, 28 years, so it was that was a huge moment, a huge moment. And my husband helped me with that. He really did.
I think that's one of the biggest things. And what I appreciate about what you said is I need to fix this, because even though you got married, I think that when you get married, it opens up a different life, because what you think is, when I get married, I'm going to have a different life. So I don't have to deal with this anymore, because now I'm going to be in this marriage with my best friend, and I can move forward and I can leave that behind. I didn't ask for it anyway. These are things that got put on me, but I'm choosing to be married. So my marriage has to be better, because that's what I chose for myself. So God is just everything is going to be wiped away, and I get to start over, because this is the one I chose. Right. That's not how it works. Generational things, generational instance, all of that is now who you are, because whether you picked it or not, it's who you are, and it's what you have to work through. And if you don't take the time to sit back and realize that your husband didn't uncover these things, or your husband didn't bring these things, or his family, or whatever these things are tied to, because it seems like, well, damn, since I got married, now this is happening, and I was fine before that. No, you felt you were comfortable keeping it down, and it was only you. Now these things are coming up because there's another person involved, and those things are very visible if it's your soulmate, and they can see.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, we can, he could very easily see and identify a lot of the things, a lot of my issues, right? Because they weren't his, and because he's looking at the behavior and the responses and all of that. So there are things that he's able to see. Now he can see it, and I know it too, but I'm just like, I ain't ready to deal with that.
You can't see that. That's not how I am.
I don't want to do it. It seems like it's going to be really hard. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to really be painful if I have to deal with this now, and I'm too old now to deal with this. And what about this and that, and people and whoever else, and all the other things, all the stuff we come up with. But I was like, I can't go through the rest of my life like this. And I know, and what I know for sure, I know without a doubt that Antoine and I, that's my husband, Antoine, for those. I know without a doubt that we are supposed to be together. There is no doubt in my mind about that. And I knew it. Huh?
How do you know that? What does it feel like for those people that don't know what it feels like?
So, okay. So when we met, we were, he was a groomsman in a wedding. I was making the dresses for the wedding, and the bride, she brought the wedding party, all the wedding party together. And she invited me. I was not a part of the wedding party, but she invited me. So that's how we met. And the crazy thing is, and I always tell this story, all I saw, because we were on Sunset going to the Comedy Store. I was parking my car, pulling up on Sunset, and all I saw was this tall, dark figure. I couldn't see a face or nothing. And inside, I didn't say it out loud, but it was like, I need to know who he is. But the thing that let me know after that, because of course we met, we connected, and we met that day. That was November 22nd of 1997. And we have literally been together since that time. We married a year and 6 days after we met. But how I knew that he was the one, he said to me probably about maybe 3 weeks or a month in, he let me know. He said, "You will always be second." And I knew what he meant. He said, "You'll always be second because God will always be first."
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
I know. It's like, you're like, what?
Right, I'm my breath, like, you didn't tell me this part.
I know. But so when he said that to me, because the prayer in my heart was, Lord, the one that I marry has to love you. He has to love you. And so for him to say those words to me without knowing what I had prayed, it was like,
who said that.
Oh yeah, he's the one, because he set the standard. He made it very clear, and he has lived up to that standard. He's lived up to it, but because he has, it's the reason we have the relationship we have now, and we're grateful to be able to celebrate, coming up on 24. But that's how I knew when he told me that. You will always be second because God will always be first. That did it.
Yeah. So I think, or I've experienced, when God wants you to be with somebody, I think something like that happens. Well, not I think, now I know. So I knew that my husband was supposed to be my husband because of something similar. When we started dating, I gave him this list because I didn't really date before. I hate dating. And he asked me if I could go on dates, what would be all the dates that I would want to go on, because I thought I was Cinderella. So I was supposed to have this fantasy life, but I didn't want to go on dates. So I gave him the list, and we ended up splitting up for, I think, 2 years. When he came back, he started taking me on dates back to back. And I'm like, these dates are dates I would have always wanted to go on. How did he know this? So I asked him one day, how did you know I wanted to go on these dates? And he was like, Asia, you really forget everything, don't you? And I was like, forget what? And he said, you gave me a list. And I kept it. And I'm like, you kept the list? We haven't even been together in 2 years. Now, why would you keep the list? Yeah. And from that point, I knew that was my person, because my biggest thing I wanted out of a marriage and a partner is I wanted to be somebody that what my heart desired was important to them, because I didn't have that before. I don't have a dad. I don't have, I have my mom. That is it. We've discussed that before. And feeling like you are special and number one to somebody, it really matters. And it can't be your mom. I mean, I love it that it's my mom, but, and I wish that other people had the same. However, the person has to be somebody that is not like supposed to do those things for your psyche. And he's not supposed to do those things, especially not being separated for 2 years. So that's how I knew that he was my person. And I submitted to the idea of thinking about being married, because at that point I didn't even want to be married. And I told him that. I was like, I'm fine. I don't want a title. I don't want to be a girlfriend. I don't want to be anything. I just want to have fun. That way your heart doesn't expect anything. So I had gotten literally to that point. And I think the older that you get, the harder it is to still desire marriage or desire a partnership, because so many things, to your point, have happened. And so you give up, not knowingly give up, because Black women are really good at suppressing and building. You build all these barriers so that you can be okay. You don't do it on purpose. You do it so you can survive and still be having a kind heart. You kind of let it go, if you will.
Yeah.
That's not good for. So once you let go of all these things, you don't realize when you get in your marriage, everything you've covered up, you have to uncover so you can go through it and leave it behind. Then it won't come up anymore. that same way because you dealt with it, and marriage brings that out.
Oh yeah, marriage exposes it, I mean, yeah, all of my insecurities, it all showed up, and it was because, again, these were things, if we were going to have the kind of marriage we needed to have in order to be a blessing to others, right? Because one of the things that we understand about our marriage, my husband, he's a PK. And so, when we got married, he was teaching Bible study and those things. So, one of the things that we would say often is, we were in a fishbowl, right? Everything was kind of out there for everyone to see. And at that time, I was really kind of resistant to that. But what we understand is our marriage is not about us. Not really. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's like our marriage is for others, because others are able to see and to know, listen, if you do the work, if you do your work and not try and manipulate the other person into doing what you think they should do and all of that, you can really have a beautiful, long-lasting marriage. And so for us, when we think about our marriage and the things that we've gone through, it wasn't just for us. We know that marriage it's a picture of the relationship between Christ and the church. And so when I think about all that Jesus has done for me, there's a similarity to that when it comes to the husband and the wife. So for us, again, that's been something that has been just really big for us to be in a place of understanding that. So when I think about all of the things that had to be exposed, all of the things that I needed to deal with, so that we could be in the place that we're in now, but I listen, it has absolutely been worth the work. It has absolutely been worth the work.
It is worth the work, but I like that you were honest and you said there was resistance on your part. And the topic of this is talking about women talking to women. So that's essentially what my channel is about. It's about building up women, allowing us to be our true selves, and us being able to tell our good girlfriends, girl, you meant what you did. Knock it off. I'm a woman and I know your man might be questioning, your husband might be saying, I think you're doing this, but your good girlfriend, because she's a woman, could say, girl, I see you. I know what you're doing. Let me help you fix it, because you saw through me. But I didn't even tell you nothing. I just want to make that clear. I want to make that very clear why I picked Sunday. I open up and tell the truth to anybody because I want people to know I am not embarrassed of anything. I am not ashamed of anything. The things that everybody goes through, to your point, once you submit and understand your assignment, you submit to it. And I'm okay with that. But what I won't do is deal with people that now all of a sudden have asked questions about marriage in particular, when I know that question is directly related to my marriage. If you come straight out and ask me, I'll answer. If you try to play games, I don't do manipulation. So I'm going to shut you down.
Yeah.
But you saw that, I don't know what your spirit must have saw my spirit, because it was completely not a day that I was feeling any type of way, but you saw something. And it's very interesting when the people left from the studio and you said, can I talk to you? And you shut that door. This is what my spirit did. I knew that you were going to say something. I already knew, but I was completely open to it and okay. And very interesting. I've been at your house so many times. I've been around your husband so many times. And on that day, he decided to introduce himself to me and have the conversation that we had.
Yeah.
So, and very open and transparent. What did that resistance look like for you in your marriage, and how did you work through it?
So the resistance for me, it's, I came into our marriage having, a lot of insecurities, and also having some anger. So before we got married, so we met in November of 1997. In January of 1997, my father died. And when my father died, I was angry with him. So I didn't grow up with my father. He lived in a whole nother state. And my last conversation with my father was not a good one. And not because of him, it was me. So he called me, hey baby, happy new year. I mean, this is what he did every year. And this year is the year that I decided, he's saying all this and I'm like, yeah. Yeah, okay, bye. The last conversation. And that's how I was on the phone with my father. So the next phone call I get is that my father is dead. So now I'm carrying guilt and I'm angry. And, I could have forgiven him for whatever it was I felt like he had done or said. But I didn't do that. And so I go into my marriage now and I've got this stuff. My father's not walking me down the aisle. Thank God for my godfather, who was my pastor. He gave me away, and it was a beautiful thing. So those were some of the things that I was dealing with. I was dealing with insecurity. I was molested by my father's youngest brother when I was 5, and I never told my father. And so I came into the marriage feeling, I understand now that what I came in with was this whole idea about being protected. And so because my father was a cop, and I never told my dad what happened. And what I found out, so that happened when I was 5. When I was 9, I found out about another family member who had also been raped by this same uncle. He has since passed away. But at that time, she told, but none of my father's siblings told him, because the word was Chuck will kill him if he finds out. And he definitely had the means to be able to do that. So I grew up just kind of like stuffing it, but there was always this need or this desire to be rescued and protected. And so getting married, to me, it was like, and I would say it's really true now, but I would say, Antoine is my hero, this and that, because, and I had this whole idealized thing about who my dad was and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I came into the marriage. Insecure. These are some of the things that I was dealing with. So I say I was insecure, I was selfish, and I was undiagnosed. So, so those are the things that I came into our marriage with, and those were the things that I had to begin to work on. And being in the marriage exposed all of that. All of that.
So what I would say is, first, I can't breathe a little bit. I hate that topic, but I understand that it needs to be addressed.
Okay. Yeah.
So I am not a victim. And I am forever grateful for that. However, I am an empath, and I know that now. I learned it through marriage. And so many people around me have been victims. And so that is why I hate that topic. And I hate it because it takes from people. It's not fair. It's just not fair.
No, it's not.
Especially minorities. And what I will say is what I have always expressed to my nieces and nephews, because this is the other thing I hate to hear. It's not the kid's fault, but you were in a perfect position to be protected. And if you would have told, things would have been better. But since they were not, or since it was not told, ironically, my dad passed a year before I got back with Mark as well. And I was angry. I was drunk at his funeral in the church because I was so angry with him that you were supposed to, at some point, be my dad. You were supposed to, at some point, treat me like I deserve to be treated. And you have now gone to your grave with this never happening. So that is a place in me that I don't know how to fix, and I don't know how to feel because the person isn't here. What do you do? And so I'm very open and transparent, but what I'm not is going to waste my breath. And so I feel like we open up so many times, especially the later you get married. It's a reason for this. You open up so many times to people and you tell them how you want to be treated. You tell them certain things you've gone through, especially when you're dating, because you don't want to bring the problems into the relationship. We're told to come in with honesty, but the other person is not, they don't care for what you've told them the way that they should. So it hurts you. So it adds to the problem. So by the time you actually do find your soulmate, you either go ahead and tell them, but you tell them with the expectation that either you're going to make this worse. You already told them what they're going to do, or you don't tell them at all and hope that somehow, I guess, you can suppress it. And then we make ourselves the villain. Like you said, you were selfish, insecure, all of these things, but you weren't really those things. In the marriage perspective, taking yourself out and not the emotion part, yes, but marriage is emotion too. So you were hurt. You were in need of. And I think that if more people could go into marriages having those open and honest conversations, especially when you feel that he's going to propose or you're getting close to that, I think that it's time at that point to open those wounds, because you don't want them to show up on their own. When they show up on their own, it could be in the middle of your anniversary party. It could be anywhere. They'll just show up. I've had some days where I'm like, this was the perfect day. How did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is so, these were things that I had shared with Antoine before we got married. So he was aware.
So that's why he didn't throw you out of the window. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why he got it.
Right. And the thing is, you know what? When we're dealing with whatever we're dealing with, when we suppress it, when we refuse to go ahead and do whatever the work is, it shows up however it shows up. And so, for me, it was, I think, like I said, in a lot of ways, it was about being protected. It was, okay, so since my dad couldn't, but what I had to acknowledge is, well, you know what? But my dad, he couldn't do anything about it, something he didn't know about. So why am I mad at, why am I this angry? Because I'm the one who didn't tell. So there was just a whole lot of, stuff around that. And I understand that. But one of the things that I have since done is, and I respect where anyone is when it comes to that issue, is I don't see I think at one time I did see myself as a victim, but I'm not a victim. It's crazy because now when I think about it, it's a part of my story. And what it does is I'm able to, kind of like when you talked about when you came over and I closed the door, they're just things that, that the Holy Spirit allows me to be able to see and to recognize, right? And I can't walk away from that. So now, and when I see someone and and the Holy Spirit says, you need to say, or you need to whatever, give them a hug, encourage them, whatever. I have to do that because
Right.
I know where, where I was. It's one of the things that we talk about a lot now. There's a scripture. It's in 2 Corinthians chapter, I think it's 2 Corinthians chapter 1. And what it talks about, it says that we are to comfort others with the comfort that we were comforted with. So the things that, it's like pay it forward, right? So it's the things that I've gone through again in our marriage. It hasn't just been about us just going through that stuff just to go through it. No, now we can relate. So when people are like, you know what, I think I'm done, and I'm not gonna do this no more, and let me just go file. God will forgive me. We understand that. We know what that, we get it. It's like, yeah, yeah, so we those are things that we get. But one of the things I know that really helped me, well, there are a few things, but I had a group of girlfriends, and they're still my sisters. We're still very close. They held me accountable. Yeah. And when I wasn't right, they let me know that. And
There it is.
had no problem telling me that. But the crazy thing is, at that time, they were all single. I was
Can we
only
just say marriage does not make you the know-all? When you're married, you're still going through it and learning. So unless you're 67 telling somebody who's 20, that don't make you the know-all just because you get married. If y'all don't learn how to listen to people with a good soul, they can help you.
listen.
I never understood that. I don't just talk to married people. I talk to good people who I feel like are connected to God, because they usually have the right things to say to me without me even saying anything. Okay, go ahead. I just want to say.
No, and you're right. And so these were women who we came together. We would have prayer, and it's funny because one, I've known her. We've known each other. We actually went to the same church together growing up. So we've known each other since we were 9 and 10, and then others. It's just how we all ended up connecting. But there was one, I probably almost how it was for you when you came over. She was doing my hair. It's just something about that, right? Hairdressers. But she was doing my hair, and I'm talking to her, and she was like, sis, I have this video I think you should watch. And so she gave me this video, and it was Michael Irvin and his wife, and they were giving their testimony about marriage and all of that. And so I just, because I knew, so this was probably in like year 2 or 3 of our marriage, but we were not in a good spot. And I knew, okay, there's some stuff I need to do. I got some work to do. And so I had to stop, because I kept pulling on my husband, trying to make him everything. I was way too needy. Way too needy. And I remember one day, I can laugh about it now, but he was leaving. We had just finished arguing, and he was leaving, and he turned around and he said, "I'm not your daddy. I'm not your father." And I'm standing there.
You are.
I'm standing there in the doorway, and I'm just mouth open, and I'm just standing there, and he just proceeds to go out the door. He closes the door, and what the Holy Spirit gave me was, okay, you're not a little girl, because that was the other thing. He was like, you're not a little girl, you're a grown woman. I'm not your father. And so the question that I began to ask myself is, what would a grown woman do? What would a grown woman do in these situations? And so I had to learn. I had to get in the word. I had to, okay, God, what is it that you want to say to me? Proverbs was huge.
Yes.
Proverbs was big. And it's funny because yesterday I was reading, sometimes when I read Proverbs, I'll read it just according to the date. So I read Proverbs 19 yesterday and Proverbs 20 today. So in Proverbs 19, in one of the verses, it talks about how a contentious wife is like a constant dripping. So if you can imagine, water just dripping on whatever. And no, that's terrible.
Yeah, people.
You can't. And so I had to learn, I had to get quiet. And, I remember I went to the movies by myself. And right before the movie started, it shows all these different previews. And then across the screen came Silence is Golden. And I was like, okay, Lord, I hear you. So I had to shut up. I had to stop complaining and fussing and trying to make my husband do. Well, because and why you leaving again? And you're supposed to be here with me, and I miss you, and doing all of that. And he's like, I need to breathe. Can I breathe, please? Can I get some space? And I wasn't trying to give him none. But it was because, again, it was all the insecurity. It was all the stuff I didn't want to deal with. And when I was alone, the only thing that I could do was think about all the stuff that I needed to work on. So, so those were things that, I remember, going through that phase, but then getting some courage and giving him space and seeing things begin to move in the right direction, because it was like, I can't, whatever it is I think I want from him, this ain't working.
It definitely gonna come this way.
Yeah, the way that I'm going about it is, it's futile. This is not helping. So those were, very early on, just some of the things that, that I had to work on. And, and it's been a process over years. There are things that I've overcome. And then there were other things. It's like, oh, shoot. Okay. So I dealt with this. Okay. But now I'm a mom. And that's the thing. It's like, we had no kids when we got married. We were child free for 5 years.
That was
before we had my daughter. So children, that brings a whole other thing. But, I'm grateful that at least, some of the stuff I had begun to deal with, before I had a child, because it would have been worse. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I think the sooner you start to, if you go into marriage, even if you go into it wanting it to be a fairy tale, because some part of that will always live in you. I went in it knowing that my relationship would fall apart first. So I went into it knowing that, because there was so much that I experienced, and it was in the area of protection, and in the area, my insecurities were protection and abandonment. Those are my two biggest things. And the same token of those being my two biggest things, I always had it in the back of my head, never suffocate your husband. So if you don't come from a 2-parent household or know any married couple that is transparent with you, you go into it trying to pick pieces out of what you've either heard somebody say that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And you're basically always trying and putting these pieces together and trying to figure out how to make your marriage work. And if you don't have two people that are patient with themselves and with each other through the process, you're consistently throwing daggers at the other person, or you're expecting too much from them, which I think is a big problem in my marriage. There is too much expectation from me because I'm older, I'm this, I'm that, and not even so much from him, his family. But I'm learning just like everybody else. And as long as I never stop trying and always keep trying to do things, it should be good enough. But it's not always good enough when you allow other people in. Between me and him, it was fine. But I did that same thing. One day I just opened the Bible like, okay, God, you have this power, so I know you can talk to me directly. I won't hear it, but I'll hear it. And I opened it and it worked. It told me I was giving too much space. I wasn't being authoritative, like in my in my marriage. I wasn't stepping up, if you will. But I thought, again, you only know what you think. I have to give this space. I have to keep letting these things happen, because just because we got married doesn't mean he's not still himself, and his family needs this, and his kids needs this, and this person needs this. And I put myself kind of at the bottom. I left too many areas open, but calling myself doing it the right way. And the thing I learned was to speak up more, that a woman is authoritative. We should pray over our marriage. I wasn't supposed to wait for him to pray because he's the head. I could pray too over our family. I could do different things that I didn't know. I thought a woman wasn't supposed to do certain things, even by the Bible, in our marriage. But thinking and actually looking for myself changed everything.
Yeah.
It changed everything. Just look for yourself. He'll give it to you. You just have to look for it.
He will. And that's the thing. It's like, when I think about, so for instance, like in some, I mean, I guess traditionally, right, it's the woman who cooks and does all those things. But I know a married couple where, the man really enjoys cooking, and that works, that works for their marriage. And now it changes nothing about him being the head of the household and him being, head in the marriage, right? In terms of, honor and respect and all in those things. But yeah, so I know for myself, for us, it was, it was me understanding that. And yes, really just getting in the word. And I wanted, I wanted Antoine to do everything. I wanted him to, to tell me that I was beautiful and this and that. And, and he did, and then it got to a place where he wasn't saying it. And I'm like, well, why aren't you? Don't you? And it was like, he's like, the beauty comes from within. That's, when your spirit is where it needs to be. When you finally decide to line up with God, that's what's beautiful to me, Kasana. Not, not hair and
talking about your looks, right?
it's not hair and makeup and clothes, now, it's a great benefit. It's icing on the cake, but right now, that cake is raw. So,
we need to make another one.
Yeah, I can't do nothing with that. So, those are things that I had to just really, really work on. And I went through in 21. I felt like there was still some stuff that I needed to work on. And so in 2021, at the beginning of the year, I decided to go through counseling by myself, not him, but just me. Cause it's like, okay, there's some residue stuff that I'm kind of feeling, and I need to, I need to deal with this. I need to deal with these things. So yeah, so there was a lot. Again, like I said, I was insecure. I was selfish because the only thing that mattered to me was me and my needs being met, what I wanted. And although and somewhere in there still was this part of me that wanted our marriage to be a partnership, I was not really honestly doing the things that I needed to do to make it a partnership. He was carrying the load, carrying all of the weight. And so it's there wasn't really a real willingness on my part for me to say, okay, you know what, let me, or me looking at him and asking God, okay, what is it that he needs?
That part.
Because as girls, we're sensitive, we're emotional. We can, if you're not careful, you can begin to think men don't need
that. Mm-hmm.
But they do. Mm-hmm. And what they need is respect and honor. Yeah. And I didn't do that. I was, I was here and whatever, but I didn't respect him, and I felt justified in that, or for various reasons. But no,
Can we talk about, stop right there. Can we talk about, because this is a big one with women, and we're not gonna lie, women, we gonna own this.
Okay.
Because certain things happen, even if that man did something, we feel justified in our actions. And if we say, not, I'm not a perfect Christian, I'm drinking, I cuss like a sailor, or I do some stuff. But if you are trying to be a good person, I believe you take care of people first. That's my caveat. So in trying to be a good person, even if that man does something that hurts you to the core of your soul, because it's an insecurity you have in you, whatever it hit that's in you, you have to own your you parts. That does not justify how we sometimes come back at them, because they could do something and we will say the one sentence that will take their soul out, because it's only one sentence and we say, well, at least all I did was said this, but you know the power that had when you did it. You did it because you were trying to take them out, and then you threw a rock and hit your hands and say, well, all I did was this. Own it if you're going to do it, number one, so you can fix it. And then number two, you have to get away from doing that, because once you marry somebody, that's your one, that's your person. And when you're not mad anymore and you looking at them and that residual hurt comes, or they start looking at you different, it's going to start hurting you too, because you know what you really did. So think about that. In your anger, just try to be quiet. Or if your anger is mine, you're too quiet and you can go 32 years without talking, that's just as bad. That's not good too. Whatever it is that's going to make you step out is usually the thing you need to do, because it's not about you.
Yeah. And you're right. So we know how to use our mouths, right? We really do. We use them.
And that attitude.
And the attitude and the all of that, whether it's, one of the things that I found out is that I was passive aggressive. So I wasn't direct with a lot of things, but he absolutely knew. And it's still disrespect. It's still me not being obedient to my husband. I mean, however I dress it up, whatever I think the issue is, however I feel like I may have been wronged or whatever. You're right. It is something that women, we have to work on. And it's funny because our bishop, he's right now we're in a series on Wednesday nights talking about obedience, the missing ingredient. And so he dealt with marriage and the roles in marriage. And one of the things that he talked about was how with women we have to be careful, that I'll say it this way, that we don't undress our husband in public, right? That we don't publicly disrespect him, belittle him, make him, and I've seen it happen. I've heard women do it, and it may, I remember I was watching a podcast, and this woman, her husband's sitting right next to her, and she's beginning to talk about, well, because, it wasn't these words exactly, but the gist of it was, he's not as spiritual as me. He's not as spiritual as I am. But she's thinking, but I'm being honest. Yeah, maybe you are. But do you understand what you're doing and what you're saying about your husband right now? And what that does to him? So we do.
Especially if he's trying.
Right. And that's really the thing, because this is somebody who he was like, I'm working on me, and doing what I need to do. So sometimes we say stuff and sometimes it's ignorance, and then other times it is truly on purpose. And and that's not how you deal with hurt.
Right.
That's not how you deal with whatever the pain is. So one of the things that my husband did for me, that was big. So I think maybe for about, I don't know if it was quite a year, but probably close to a year, every Monday at 7:30, just he and we would meet, and he would just listen to me. He would let me talk about whatever I wanted to talk about, register whatever complaints I had. And what happened over time is you know, in the beginning, yeah, it was a lot of complaints and this and that, and I don't like this, and I don't like when you say this and when you do that. And he listened. He listened, Asia. He listened. You know, I tell him all the time, I'm in awe of him when it comes to his note-taking ability, because I could probably call him in here now and he could probably go to the date and probably pull up exactly what I said on.
I'm sure. He seems very attentive. I'm sure. Yeah, I will believe that.
He takes copious notes. And so we did that. And what happened over time is I began the conversation. It went from me talking about whatever I felt about him, to me saying, you know what, babe? Okay, I realize I've done this, or, you know, I've been this way with you. And it became, you know, a safe space, a place where, you know, I could be honest with him about how I was feeling, and even where I felt like I was or where I wasn't, you know, and repenting and, you know, apologizing to him for doing this or that or the other thing, for behaving in certain ways. And those are the things that over time, you know, have really allowed us now, you know, I mean, what I wanted in the beginning, I wanted us to, you know, to really be best friends. And now we really are. But I'm no longer trying, you know, in the beginning, I was trying to make our marriage look like my godparents' marriage. They have a beautiful marriage. And so she was a stay-at-home mom, and, you know, he's the pastor and he's taking care of the family and all of that. And that's really kind of like what we had, but you can't make your marriage look like mine. There are things that you can glean from my marriage, and there are lessons that you can learn. You ain't gotta make the mistakes I made. You don't have to. So you can take notes and say, okay, you know what? Let me make sure, you know, that I, you know, give the appropriate amount of space, and then I deal with the things that I need to deal with concerning me. If I have insecurities, just be honest about that and go deal with them. You know, so there are things you can learn. And, you know, and what we're grateful for is, yes, people see us together. You know, we're all about PDA all the time. It doesn't matter. We drive our kids crazy with it. But they know that's just mom and dad. You know, I'm going to always find him and kiss him or pinch him on his butt. I'm going to do it. It's just, it is what you should. You know, and so those were, you know, those were things that, you know, that really helped him giving me that time and that space. But again, I had to do my work. And that was one of the things that he constantly encouraged me with. I didn't always like that encouragement. I didn't always want to hear that. But what I watched, like I said, from when we met very early, and he's been consistent with it through our entire marriage. God has always been first, and I have always been second. But I tell people, second place is a very great place to be.
I would take that second place.
It is,
and I do take that second place. That's an amazing second place.
It is.
Something very powerful that you said is, usually these days it is the woman who offers that space that your husband offered, by saying, either tell me what's going on, tell me what we need to change, whatever that space is. I just want to call out that the men now that are expecting to be treated, and they should, like the head of the household and the king, those are the type of things that you do in those type of situations. And here's the reason why. Everything has a method to its madness, and it doesn't feel good when you go through it at first, but if you go through it, it becomes the norm. He took the lead and said, okay, this is somebody that I love. I have to take care of the little girl in her too, because I have to take care of the little boy in my husband, and he needs to take care of the little girl in me at some point. It's just what it is. When you have to do that and step back, take your ego out of it, well, you're old enough, you should know this by now. We're all human. So whatever it is that you feel like will help your partner, at least try it. He opened up that space for her to talk, and eventually, no offense, Cassandra, she got tired of talking. she eventually was like, okay, I keep saying this. Okay, I keep saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait, what am I that I turns into, because it starts with, I don't like this, I don't like that. It turns into, okay, what's wrong? What do I need to do? How can I fix this? Because if he keeps showing up, like literally dedicated in this space, and he's doing what I'm saying, it's still happening. Oh, it's me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then women, be honest and truthful and go back to your husband the next time you sit in that space, whatever it looks like. It could be in the bedroom, and say, okay, honey, I see what you was doing. It worked. Because let me tell you, if that makes them feel good, that gives them their flowers that they put into the marriage, and we see it and we appreciate it. That gives them the courage to do that next thing, because another one is coming. Another one is coming. And they just get easier because you learn how to deal with them as one and as partners, and being not ashamed to try something new and different that may sound so silly to somebody else. But what's the harm in being silly if it helps your marriage?
Right. And the thing is, gratitude is huge. It's one of the things. It's kind of been my I don't even want to call it a buzzword, but it's been the word that the Lord has given me, is gratitude. And so I talk to my husband a lot about the things that I'm grateful for. And if you want to get out of a fence, begin to think about the things that you have to be grateful for. And so
Amen.
when it came to whatever I thought his issues were, the Lord said, no, stop. And I had to see him differently. But again, one of the things that my husband did, that he planted seeds of love. He reminded me, he's like, look, what I need you to do is to, when that other voice wants to come and tell you that I don't love you, I need you to remember what I told you. And what my husband told me is that he loved me and that he cared about me.
And showed you.
And he showed me. He gave me time. He's been this is a man who, he has demonstrated a great deal of patience. He has suffered long with me. He has done the things that the Bible talks about when it talks about the fruit of the Spirit. He's done that. He's been patient. He's been kind. He's been loving. He's been long suffering. Those are things that he has actually done. He gave me the space, and he still does that. And so what I realized is, okay, how often have you let him know that you appreciate what he does? And I had not spent very much time, doing that. And so I had, so I've made it, and it's not contrived. It's just, we're together, we're laying in the bed. I wake up, I look at him, whatever, and I may say, babe, I'm just so grateful for this or that or whatever. And it's just, and so when you get in the place of gratitude, it changes how you see things.
Yes.
And it changed how I saw me, how I looked at me, because I was so I was just so critical of myself, and who I thought I was, who I thought I wasn't, carrying stuff from, the cruel, silly things kids say, when you're in school, and all of that stuff that we carry. And I was a 70s and an 80s kid, so chocolate was not in. We were not in.
No.
We were not in,
No.
and being curvy was not in.
I was about to say, and don't have some hips, because now you're fat.
So none of that, none of that was in. When nobody doing no BBLs back then. Now
Right.
now we have people trying to buy what I got, what the Lord gave me naturally. So those were things, I had to really just, deal with. And it wasn't his fault. It's like, listen, I came in with this stuff. So he, he did. But getting to a place of gratitude and letting him know how much I appreciate the man that he is, the son that he is to his mother,
The
who,
father that he is.
right, who, the father, the man of God that he is, the things that I see him do,
For
with,
other people.
yeah, with, with the other men in our church, and just all of that, and letting him know I appreciate you, I really do. And so now, I'm in a place where I really think about him, where before it was, when I thought about him, it was me thinking about him based on what I think of, based on what I wanted him to do for me. And so
Right.
now when I think about him, is what can I do to make him smile? What can I do to help? You know, and that's that's where we are. So but again, it's work, but it's like I said, it has been worth all of the work. It has. We've overcome a lot, and I'm grateful that, in times when he would have been justified to leave and call it an end, and end our relationship, where he absolutely would have been justified to do that, and he didn't. He stayed. And
Uh,
a lot of men would not have. They would have been like, deuces, I'm done. And he
they
didn't.
leave if you forget the bread these days. It's a mess. I say marry the person that you want to, not argue in that tone, because me and my husband actually never argue. But marry the person that you're willing to fight through things with, because your perfect partner, the person that you know loves you the most, the
Mhm.
love has to be tested. If it's not tested, anybody could say they love you. They could say they love you right from the start, but the moment something happens, they are not there. That's not love. That's not anything that God said love was. Even if, for the people that don't focus so much on that, your feel good and how it makes you feel is opposite of everything that even feels like it makes sense. So if you can't go through something with somebody and still love them, that is a red flag. In the times where, and I always say this, even when we're getting along, the times I want to, hit him in his kneecap because he's 6'7" and I'm 5'4", the times that I think he probably should have threw me out the window, because it's reverse. I know I got some issues. Even in those times, I'll be like, "Ooh, he's cute," or I'll be like, "I really appreciate the way you didn't just kill me." Like, that's like my natural thing that I do. And I think it's tied to my career maybe, but that's something that I do, because what I want him to always know is, no matter how angry I get or look, my love for you trumps that. So we could be in the middle of a disagreement or needing to take a minute, but if you come in here and say, do you want to go to dinner? If you say you want to take a walk, if you say go make me dinner, I'm gonna say okay, and I'm still gonna do it. Like those, I don't know, those things I just want to be happy, if that makes sense. And I want to be somebody that makes my husband happy, and I want to do 99% of what it takes to make him happy, because we can't do everything somebody wants. Some things are just crazy, like her thinking that poor Antoine was never going to be able to leave the house by himself. Or myself thinking you could just tell your husband, yeah, go do whatever you want to. That's fine. Girl, don't do that. You want to be that person that makes them happy. You want to be the person that when you say, I'm proud of you, or babe, I love you, or I really like the way you did that you could change their whole day because you said it. It matters because you said it. Kind of like their mom, in that same high regard. You two are in two different lanes, but what you say matters so much, because that's the person that built him, and then you're the person he chose. So those are the two highest positions in his life. You have to be that person to feed your husband. You have to, and you should want to, because again, it's a part of your soul. You don't like seeing your kids upset, even if they're upset and they're on punishment because they should be. Your spirit still be like, I just want to take them off punishment. I just want to do this. That's a part of love. It's a
Yeah,
part of love.
yeah, and it's, you know, it's funny you talk about punishment, because I would tell people, I was like, the one thing that my husband never had to worry about was that there was not, you know, when it comes to sex, there was not going to be no punishment, because the only person that I was going to be punishing was me. So, so listen, you know.
If my husband looking, he probably clapping like, could you tell this fool?
Listen,
At first, that was my issue. And it wasn't because it was a punishment. It was because I wasn't turned on. You just made me mad, sir.
You know, and
but I'm better now.
Yeah. And the thing, you know what? And here's the thing. What I know, what I've experienced is the Lord talks to you about everything.
Yes.
including your sex life. And it's like something that I think
you feel so.
People can feel like, but I'm like, no, but he does. And, you know, and there
he does.
And listen, I remember not too long ago, I remember I was going to get out the bed and the Lord was like, nope, turn over. Okay.
I'm just telling you,
you know,
the Lord be talking. Y'all better start listening. I'm telling you, because I'm hard-headed. And even with me, I was like, dang it. I was like, okay.
Let me tell you, it's funny because we're like, listen, we had worship before we had worship. So it's like, so, and that's just always been, you know, there were things I think for, you know, people will talk about like their non-negotiables, right? You know, before. So there were things that for me that the Lord just kind of put in my heart very early on. And so I knew that was one thing that I was not going to do, that sex would not be a weapon.
Yeah, don't do that.
That it would not be something that I would use as a, you know, well, I'm going to reward you now and that, you know, or I'm going to withhold. That was never something that we didn't engage in that. I never engaged in that and never wanted to, because again, you know, and the thing is it's better now, you know, than when we were 28 and 29. So it's, you know, it's something that again, it's one of the things that I'm grateful for, you know.
That's medicine. You need it.
Absolutely. Yes, I do. I do.
Amen.
And I need it regularly. So, you know, so it is. Yeah. So it's one of the things that, you know, that I'm truly grateful for, you know, to have that and to know that, like you said, you know, we have been, you know, tested. Our love has been tested. You know, we, when I think about, you know, like I said, I remember at one point, you know, in our marriage, it looked like it was dead. That's how it looked. And I thought, okay, this is done. But one of the things that I had determined long before I got married is that divorce for me was not an option. That's just how it was in my head. And so it was one of the things that women, I think, have to be careful about. And if you look at the statistics, statistically, more women file than men when it comes to divorce. So men are willing to stay, but we won't. And so for me, I just knew the Lord that it was just in me that it was not an option and that I would fight. And so sometimes, because when you talked about, you know, us fighting, you know, but sometimes it might just be one person fighting by themselves and the other one isn't. And it was like that at one point. I was fighting and he was, you know, he was doing his thing, you know. But that was okay. Can
you say that one more time? Because when I told you something, that was the first feedback that you gave me. It's okay. And then you shared a story. And on that day, I said, she was sent to me for a reason.
Yeah.
She was sent to me for a reason. Because I started to feel like that, like, this cannot be, this is not it. This is this form? Like, what is happening? Because you get to that point where you're like, is this real? Or what am I supposed to do with this? and you don't have somebody to talk to if they haven't been through it, because let's just be honest, people these days, the first thing they say, you could be like, oh, he won't cook, I'm tired and he won't cook. Girl, divorce him. You don't need no man like that. You'd be like, well, dang, I didn't think, or divorce, I just wanted to know what to do. You don't have very many people that will be transparent and tell you, hang in there, this is your season to do this, their season to do that, but it still contributes to the marriage. Even if one is here and one is here, it's a part of the marriage. Nobody says that. Nobody says that.
Yeah, sometimes it's gonna be 90-10. It might be that way. Now, should it be that way perpetually? No, but
right.
but I was determined. I knew this is the one with whom purpose will be fulfilled. This he's, and I'm not. And okay, maybe he's all right with whatever, but I let him know, listen, if it comes to that, you will be the one to file. It won't be me. Because
I'm not ever.
I said, I'm gonna fight. I told him I'm going to fight for our marriage. And it's what I did. And the fighting was not continuing to nag him. The fighting was go do your work, get on your knees, pray and ask the Lord for wisdom. Get wisdom. And I began to do that. I began to, to do that part. So it wasn't, but yeah, I mean, there were days where it was like, I felt like, I'm in this all by myself and I can't take it no more. And I remember, and I remember one day where I was like, okay, I think I've had enough. And I called one of my girlfriends, one of my prayer partners, Karen. I called her and I said, Karen, I can't do it anymore. I think I'm going to leave. And she said to me, sis, give me 15 minutes. I'm going to call the girls and we're going to pray. She hung up with me. I guess they prayed. I was not included in the prayer, but they prayed and I did not leave. And in that time, 15 minutes, where I was feeling weary and like I should just give up, because that's what the enemy wanted, because the enemy he hates marriage. As long as if y'all live together, everything. Yeah. And it's because of what it represents.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I remember that day and just knowing in that moment, okay, you know what, that 15 minutes. But yeah, because what he wanted was divide and conquer. If let me just, if I can get y'all, then, I get to make a mockery of the church again. He's a pastor's son.
And I get to break two people. Right. Especially when they're two dynamic people. Those two people getting together and how the world already sees them, despite them knowing how people see them, they are actually a focal point for some people. And the work that they can do, if they have good hearts on their own, two good hearts together, working really hard towards things that are of God, you're going to be an automatic target. You're going to be a target, because God, the devil don't want that. Why would he want that? So yeah, you're going to be a target. But to be able to pick up the phone and call somebody and they pray for you, that's one of those things that you better put it in your bucket of things when you don't feel good. You look back and realize that's not something everybody has. That's a blessing. That's one of your counted blessings.
Yeah, it's not, but I'll tell you this. One of the things that as women, what we have to do, so many of us, we look at each other as competition or as and sometimes we see each other as, the only thing you want to do is tear me down. And there are women who do that, right? And the only reason they're doing it, though, is because they're insecure, because they don't know who they are yet. But once you find out who you are, then you don't do that. But what we have to do for those of us who are now in a place, and I just let women know, listen, hey, if you need to call me, and I can do it because there were women who did it for me. So the thing is if you need to talk, if you just need to call and scream, if you just need to call and please do that before you go do something else. But that's what women did for me.
Yeah.
It's what they availed themselves. But what I had to do was not be so prideful and not make the phone call. I couldn't wait for them to call me. Well, how you doing today? No, I was the one who needed help. And in James, what it says in the book of James, it says that the sick are supposed to call for the elders so that they can pray for them and anoint them, not the other way around. So sometimes we're waiting, we're mad at our girlfriends and stuff because you didn't call and check on me. Hello.
How am I supposed to know?
If you're going through, cut that out. Pick up the phone and say something. I'm depressed. I'm having a bad day. And I just need you to pray for me right now. Can you do that? And that's what I learned in going through that, is that I couldn't wait for them to call me. I had to cry out to them. And it's what God wants from us. And King David is a great example of that in the Bible. When you look at a lot of the Psalms, and he cried out to God. He was honest with God about where he was, how he felt about his enemies, about the different things that he was facing when Saul was chasing him and all of this. He cried out to God. And so oftentimes we want somebody to come to us and then to ask us, well, what's the matter?
Right. Are you okay?
No. And not that there isn't a place for that, because if
Right.
I see it,
that's not the place.
Right. Because if I see it and I recognize it, then yes, I'm gonna say something. But after that, it's on you. Now the ball is in your court. I've opened the door. I've let you know I'm available. So now, now you know I'm available. And now it's just a question of, do you want to be held accountable? And sometimes we don't say nothing because we don't want to be held accountable. We don't want anybody to tell us what we really need to do. We don't want anybody to tell us, you know what, you wrong and you need to go apologize to him.
Yep. Because how much easier is it that I keep doing, well, this is how I always do it, or I'm doing my best, or I'm trying with everything I have in me. But what you're trying isn't working. So go ahead and talk to somebody. It doesn't mean it's wrong. Just to be clear, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Stop being so defensive or not feeling like you're not good enough if what you did didn't work. You're always good enough because you're trying. That's number one. As long as you never stop. But don't do it with pride. Do it with really wanting, do you want the end result more, or do you want to be able to say, I did this so my marriage worked? Or do you want to just be able to say, I'm happy I made it to this place? I'm going to go ahead and prefer to say, I finally made it to this place, or we made it over this hurdle. I want wisdom. I don't want to keep running into brick walls. So I will ask. If I think somebody has the answer, I'll ask. Because I want a shortcut. Guide me. Tell me what I need to do. I'll take it.
Absolutely. There's a saying out there that, there's ain't no sense like bought sense. But one of the things that Antoine and I understand is that you ain't got to buy it. If I already bought it for you,
I'll give it to you.
I'll share the wisdom with you, but the other side of that is, something our bishop would say is, life will teach you what wisdom couldn't. So sometimes when we don't take the wisdom and we don't apply the wisdom that came, now we're subject to what life will teach us in certain areas. So there were things that I knew I needed to deal with, and because I didn't deal with them when I needed to do, life certainly taught me. It taught me some stuff. And the thing, and what I understand now in going through that, yes, there's some wisdom that I have though now. So now I can share that wisdom with you, and I can say to you and to others, look, swallow your pride. He's the man in the relationship, and he needs to be that. And fine, if you've got a great career and a great job and all of that, and that's all fine and good. But I need you, when you come home, you need to create an
front door.
You need to create an atmosphere that he wants to be in, and stop, having this attitude of, well, I really don't need you because I really could do all this without you, and making little veiled threats. Stop being passive aggressive. Stop doing all that stuff. And sometimes, and listening to some of your girlfriends who really would like to be in your place. They really, girl, if I was you, well, you not.
And lying, if they was you, they'd be on cloud 9. That's where they would be.
I had someone who, she went there, was like, girl, well, if I was you, and I let her know, I said, you know what, I understand. God made me for this. He built me for this. Everything that I'm going through in our marriage, God, he built me for this. So if it were you in this situation, no, you probably couldn't handle it. But God made me for this. He absolutely made me for it. And what I know and what's happening right now, God is getting the glory out of everything we've gone through. He is absolutely going to get the glory out of it. And that's what he's done. So we have to, but yeah, it's like, look, you might need to apologize. There may be a whole lot of stuff that you have to admit to, and you might have to change some friends. There are some people who are in your space that you may have to,
family.
Right, really, that you may have to excuse. And everybody should not be, in the middle of your stuff. I have a wonderful mother-in-law. She has never, ever inserted herself.
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah, in our relationship. And actually, I remember one time Antoine had said something to me. She didn't like the way he said it, and she checked him.
That's the way it's supposed to be, and vice versa. My mom has checked me before, like,
yes.
What are you talking to? And I was like,
and that is my mother. And my mother, listen, you're going to know exactly what it is. You're going to know exactly what it is. And so those were things that were really helpful. And, just knowing that what our parents have been for us is they've been fair. They've not taken sides, and they don't get in the middle. If we went to them and said something, then they would respond. But they were not getting, they never, and it was never, well, you, my son. It was never, no, she didn't do any of that. She's never done any of that. So, so those things were helpful. But again, us dealing with us, women dealing with women, we have to hold each other accountable. And that's what I had. I had women who held me accountable. And so I now hold women accountable. You can't come to me just only telling me what he did. Because what did you do? No, okay. So, and your part was what? Okay, so
and you might as well tell the truth, because if you don't, she's gonna know. Might as well tell the truth. Because let's just be clear. Now see, I'm the opposite. I told the whole truth and nothing but the truth about me. And she was like, so what's the other part? And when she said that, I was like, I don't have time for this today. I came down here for a dress. And then I finally was like, I might as well tell the truth. She already know. But the people that know, that it'll be very clear who you should talk to. Because the people that, I'll say this, and this will be my last thing, and then I'll ask for what your best advice is going forward. But the people that God sent to you, you'll know, very similar to how you knew your partner is your partner, and you continue to know that no matter what you go through, you're still in love with your partner. You still love that partner. The people you'll know, because they will, like she said, like God probably told them to, not probably, God told them to say X, Y, and Z, and they are prepared to share what they have gone through, not just somebody that wants to quit thinking everybody just wants to know your business to use it against you, and that people are just being nosy. People do still care. They do. And you'll feel it, because you'll try to if you're a person like, you'll try to protect your partner and protect yourself and protect your marriage. But in some spaces, you have to lay it all out so they have all the pieces. It's not so that they can know all your business. They need all the pieces to give you the best advice. And you'll know, your spirit will tell you. The second question she asked me, I already knew. So then by the time her husband came in, I was like, I might as well, fine, I'll answer all the questions, because just pay attention. Don't be so closed off. That would be my thing. Don't be so closed off. Everything isn't bad. I know it's really hard right now because this world is crazy, but it's not. We pray, God still sends us good people. So that would be my last thing, is God still sends you good people. Don't be so closed off.
No, don't. And you know what I would just say for those who are struggling, who are in a place where you're on the verge of giving up, is I tell people I'm the eternal optimist when it comes to marriage and what you're able to come through, because of what I've gone through. We're on the other side of some things. And so I tell people, listen, pray, ask God who's your safe space? Who are the people that you need to surround yourself with? Because some of the people that you may be talking to right now, may not be the people you need to talk to. And it ain't got to be a bunch. It could be one. If you need to go to counseling, I have a great Christian counselor that I went through. And so if that's something you need to do, please do it. Do that. But you don't have to give up just because society, social media, and so many other externalities may be saying to you that this is how it's supposed to look. It's just I mean, that's production. What what about the mother-in-law that are the opposite? So I'll answer that. So when it comes to those who are in the middle, sometimes one of the things that I encouraged my husband to do when we got married was to go spend time with his mother.
Me too.
Because
I didn't want that feeling.
Their son is gone, and now there's a woman who's in some ways kind of taken her place, if you want to say that. And if she's been a single mother, there's all of that. So encourage your husband to actually go spend some time with her. And maybe you, the wife, need to invite her in a different way so that she doesn't get in the middle of the stuff that she shouldn't get into. And then if he's one who's divulging information, then that's another conversation that you need to have with him about, okay, well, can we keep these things between us? So those are some of the things, if you have one that's the opposite. But yeah, one of the things that I did is I would, I was like, go see your mom, go, and so I think those things help and I believe it helped her because she knew I'm not somebody who's like looking at her side-eyed and,
right.
No, mom,
right.
we love you.
Right.
So I think, so those are things that help. But yeah, but if you're in a place where you're struggling, I say, don't give up. If you need to go get counseling alone, if you guys are able to do it together, do it together. That's good too. But what I have found is that for most of us, we just need to do our own work, and we need to stop. We have to stop looking outside of ourselves for the things that are inside of us to be fixed, because that's not how it works. You gotta,
and fixing yourself brings it better into the marriage too. You start showing up different.
And I did.
In all your relationships, actually, if you get therapy, you'll show up different.
And I do, because the thing is when I was angry, everybody saw it. When I would go to church, oh, well.
Yeah, when I'm angry, you see it before. You could literally see it.
Yeah. No, it showed up in It
And
shows.
I was like, I'm trying to be like, no, I'm fine. And they'd be like,
Yeah.
okay.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, so yeah, so you show up and I show up different. I'm,
I do.
I remember somebody telling me, she's like, yeah, you're really different. And I was like, yeah, I am. But that's a good thing.
Right. That's a good thing. I'll be so happy.
Yeah, it's a good thing that I'm different, and I'm never gonna be who I was back then. And it's funny because I was
I
telling
think you're the person you always, if those things couldn't have happened, that's the person you always really wanted to be. Is usually the person you think we're showing up as. Because again, those are coverings that you put on yourself to protect yourself. And in your head, the person when that person says, you look different, you're like, this is who I always was. But you do get to the point where you realize it's not who you showed up as, but you thought you were. You begin to know that those are two different things. And you feel good. It's a very good compliment. In no way is it something that you're defensive about.
No.
Before we go, the thing that I did before I got married, when I kind of felt like my husband was going to propose, I felt it. I could always feel that man. His mom was somebody that I figured was important to him, and I knew was important to him. I didn't meet her but once, the first time we dated. The second time, once my spirit told me that that was going to be my husband, I started wanting to be around his family. So I started taking the lead. Like, let's invite her to lunch with us before we take the kids home. Let's do this. Let's do that. I started to invite her into that space because I wanted her to get to know me. To your point, to see that I'm inclusive, to see that I'm not, I actually wasn't super attached in that's my husband, he can't do this, he can't do that, or boyfriend. I wasn't that person. And I knew that there were some issues with that before because he has 2 kids. So and I say that because, not that it's a bad thing, we all have our things, but because I know this is a thing, let me do out of love, to fix it, not to make it worse. So you use those things that you know to try to help what could happen. So those are some of the things that I did. And it allowed me an opportunity to be around. But you have to be willing to integrate yourself. And here's the other thing that I would do. In those times where we took her to lunch or something, I'm saying this as a joke on our way out because it's a joke to me, but it's a big deal. I would sit in the back seat and let her sit in the front seat.
I do the same thing.
That's the thing. Like, I felt like that was another thing of me showing I don't need to show my muscle. I don't need to do this. I'm okay in a deference space. Yes, even if it was my husband, he wasn't my husband at that point, but I'm okay in who I am in the position that I have to allow you to do. I offer it to you first. You know, if I'm going to serve my fiance, I served her. If I went to her household, if we buy tissue, I could buy tissue. Like, those things matter and they should help. Those are things that I would do because my mama taught me how to act like I had some sense too. But do those things. Those things should matter. They should help.
And those things do help because it's funny that you said that because I do the same thing. If we're going to pick up mom, and we're getting in the car, and I'm like, no, mom, get in the front. I'll get in the back.
Right.
You're his mother. So
and you're an elder. That's the elder. So it's okay in some situations. Now, if we was on our way to our anniversary party or a wedding, yes, then I'm the wife. Like, the situation calls for that. But going to Sunday dinner, if we're going to church, that would probably be a time I also would sit next to my husband because it's just use your brain. It's okay.
and we do. And we want to make sure that we respect and we honor our elders. And so, if your mother-in-law is not, for those whose mother-in-laws are not like mine, sometimes, sometimes you kind of encourage him and her to spend some time together without you involved. And then, other times, maybe you and her together, so that she can get to know you and know that, what, you're not just, my baby, because you know, for some, again, if she was a single mom, you know, it's different. I mean, my mother-in-law, you know, she was married until my father-in-law passed away. And so, you know, I think that those things help, you know, but my husband is her covering. And so he's gonna take care of his mom. But but you know, the order and all of that is understood, and we respect one another in our roles. So yeah.
I love it. So thank you for joining the show. Thank you for sharing all of those nuggets. I hope that
Yeah.
whomever joined got something out of it that they needed to get. I got something additional out of it, which is always great. You are welcome to come back anytime, and we super appreciate you. So thank you for joining the show. I always do a toast at the end, but I would prefer for you to actually pray us out. So let me
Okay.
put down the wine. I will
Okay.
prefer.
Okay. Okay. I will pray us out. And before I do, just so you know, anytime you want Antoine to join, he is more than happy to
Oh,
do that. We would love to, you know, to come on together at some point, because you know,
perfect.
you hear my side, but you know, it's good to hear the other side too. So I just want to offer that up. Okay.
Perfect. I'm gonna hold you to it real soon too.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Just let me know. All right. So I'll
Thank you.
pray us out. So, God, we just thank you. We praise you for this time, God. I thank you for those who will watch this, whether they watched it live or they watch it after the live broadcast. I pray for those who are in a place in their marriage where they're about to give up, God. I know what you are able to do when we surrender our will over to your will. And so, for those who are struggling, God, I pray that you would give them what they need so that they can surrender, that you would place in their path people who will give them the wisdom that they need to be able to make it through the difficult times. I thank you that you have allowed Antoine and I in our relationship to be a beacon, to be an example of what you are able to do when we do our own work and when we give our will over to you. I thank you for Asia and for this platform and allowing us to be able to come together and to encourage one another and to encourage others. I thank you that you are the one who will get the glory out of everything that has happened, not just in this live broadcast, but in our lives and in our marriages. And so, God, we just say thank you for it all now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you to those who joined. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and specifically share this one. This the one. Share this one. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for joining. Bye, everybody.
Bye.